I'm not the type of person who likes to say I'm right all the time. I just like people to realize that among the throngs of Xbox YouTubers or whatever, that I am right a good amount of time, and I have been right a good amount of times. And some of the things that I've said, some of the things that I've kind of reflected on, and even things that I would say I just took a strong guess at, because at the end of the day, you know what? I'm just a person that has common sense and some intelligence. So even back in the day when I was talking about, and this was like 2018 and stuff like this, Microsoft was just buying a lot of studios, and I was saying very point of fact that these studios, judging by what they were working on, judging by the things that were going on, were going to not be able to put out games on an Xbox as exclusive until 2023, 2024, somewhere around there. And I got a lot of hate for that, for whatever reason. And it kind of is what it is. I understand, people don't want the negative all the time. I wasn't really trying to be overtly negative. I was just trying to say that, just using common sense, a lot of these developers had ties and contracts to previous games and to do multiplats, so it was kind of unfortunate we weren't going to see exclusives as fast as I think a lot of us were expecting. Now, with that being said, when it comes down to this, I find this to be disappointed, and I hate being right in this instance, because it's something that honestly affects what we're seeing right now, and maybe that's a little bit of Microsoft's own fault as well. Again, when you lose a console generation, it can mean a lot of different things, right? So the Xbox lost that console generation, but they did manage to gain some hardcore fans, and that translated well over to the Xbox 360. The Xbox 360, I know it's hard for us to believe, but how many of you out there were an Xbox 360 owner? Now, remember how much things were different then. We'd go to a GameStop or a store at midnight launch for Call of Duty, Halo, whatever, Madden. Go home, you pop your disc in and you play. It was a great thing. And it was better, in my opinion, than now in a way, because you don't have to download the game. Like now you can go and do that and get your disc, but it's still going to download probably a good chunk of the game and things like that. So you're not playing as quick as you would as you're putting in a disc right after you get home. Now, PlayStation 3 was on a Blu-ray, those disc games were, and so it was almost the same thing. It had to install and, all this kind of stuff. So it took a longer time. Xbox 360 to me is the epitome of a great console. Now, what's interesting is, you might not remember this, but not all games were available digitally on that platform, and especially not day and date. Games that were digitally, like you couldn't get Call of Duty digitally day and date as the same time as you could at a physical retail version, and that was a way to kind of keep retailers afloat and things like that. Now, the Xbox One era, a little bit different. We go to the Blu-ray and stuff like that, and again, we start to see things sort of change a little bit. And here we go. Like, again, this is something that Phil Spencer talked about, saying that they lost the worst generation to lose. And I've touched on this a little bit, but not fully. People were asking about it when Phil Spencer was talking about the different aspects of the company's gaming business. He was basically, this is one that's sort of very striking, and it's exactly what I freaking said, to be honest with you. And people, they're not exactly running with it the way that I would, but it does make sense that this is 100% facts. Basically, Phil Spencer says that last generation, the Xbox One era, was a very bad one to lose because of the rise of digital games, further entrenching players into their eco-platforms. As a result, the company feels that it can't really align and regain the ground by simply competing head-to-head with others like Sony or Nintendo. Xbox needs to go and do its own thing. But the funny thing about this is, Nintendo's not competing with Xbox and Sony. Sony has already forced Nintendo to do something totally different. That's why they're using gimmicky stuff like the Switch. That's why they had success with the Wii. The GameCube, I wouldn't think as a gimmick. It was just going head-to-head with PlayStation 2, and we saw what happened there. So I think that, obviously Nintendo is behind the times when it comes to a lot of things, online, an achievement system, powerful hardware, adult-themed games. The third-party games, getting third-party games, like they're really behind the times in that stuff. So and this is my speculation, if Nintendo were to come out with a console more powerful or just as powerful as the PS5 and Xbox Series X, and it didn't have a portability factor or anything like that, it would absolutely fail. Let's just say they came out with a $399 Nintendo, right? Played all the third-party stuff day and date, had an achievement system, had good online, it would still 100% fail. Why would it fail? because right now, by Sony's grace, they allow Nintendo to get some of these Square games, some of these other games, because Sony doesn't look at Nintendo as competition, because they're not. They're a handheld for the most part, right? So if you look at it, they really just want to keep Microsoft from getting these games. And, you know, it's not really as big of a deal for Nintendo. But I guarantee you, if Nintendo had a platform on par with theirs, they would definitely go to the developers and stop them from getting it. So, and I've covered this part a little bit. Phil said it's not true that if we go and build off great games, all of a sudden we're going to see console share shift in some dramatic way. We lost the worst generation to lose in the Xbox One generation, where everybody built their digital library of games. He went on to further make his point by saying that even something like Starfield, being an incredible game, won't make a substantial amount of players move over to Xbox. And I've covered this bit as well, where he says there's no world where Starfield is an 11 out of 10 and people start selling their PS5s. It's not going to happen. I know some people want to hold us up against at just being a better green version of what the blue guys do, and I'm just going to say that there's not a win for Xbox in staying in the wake of somebody else. We have to go off and do our own thing with Game Pass, with the stuff we do with xCloud and the way we build our games. So there's some very frank and honest points from it. He talks about it. He's very honest about it. We're not used to seeing people open up about that and be as honest as this, and I think that really kind of threw people for a loop. They were really kind of confused, like, oh man, why is Phil saying all this stuff? He's throwing in the towel. It sounds like he's given up. And when you look at it, he said these same things many years ago, even back in 2016 when they started putting all of their games on PC at the same day. He said if we wanted to sell Xbox Ones, it's plastic, if we wanted to do that, we would not put our games on PC, and yeah, we could sell more consoles, but we don't want to do it that way. So that's all he's saying. It does suck that they continually are looked at as like this losing platform, and I don't really look at them that way. I look at them as trying to be the most consumer friendly there is. I do wish that people would kind of cut them some slack with some of this stuff, because, you know, at the end of the day, Microsoft is doing what they can, and Microsoft has really come a long way from the old days. Remember, you needed Xbox Live to even watch Netflix. Yeah, that was crazy. You know, crazy that you even needed that. Now, does that mean that they can't come out and sell some Xboxes, or that they don't want to sell Xboxes? No. I think they probably have some kind of plan. They're probably just saying, wait till they get a load of these other games. I fully believe that they didn't have a ton of faith in Redfall. I don't think Redfall is terrible by any means. You know, I think that it really kind of comes down to, you know, what they're trying to accomplish by their goals is they had to pivot. They just pivoted a different way than Nintendo, obviously, and, you know, some people aren't going to like that and some people aren't going to be happy about that, but, you know, here we are. I think it really kind of just comes down to the ability to make sure that you have quality games and things like that. But yeah, I don't see them any world where they're putting all their games on PC and cloud, where they're going to all of a sudden with one game sell, you know, 10 million extra Xboxes. Like, I don't see that happening. I think that people see Xbox as a platform with some great stuff, but I also don't look at it as something like where they look at it and go, well, you know, I definitely need to get this to play. In fact, I argue with PlayStation fans on the daily on social media, and it's just one of those things where most of them will be like, yeah, I'm looking forward to Starfield, but I'm going to play it on xCloud, which, again, that's why Microsoft does what they do, right? They don't care if you play it on xCloud or PC or whatever. If you refuse to buy an Xbox, but you're still playing Xbox games, you're still an Xbox user. That's why they shifted. That's why they're doing what they're doing, and people still don't understand it, you know, and I think that's kind of crazy. So anyway, let me know what you guys think. I'll link this. Do you think it's the worst console generation to lose, or do you think, you know, are we losers for sticking with the company? Let me know. Rack 'em up. Prep Gamer out.